Welcome back to another episode of the Unsettled Football Oh, never mind. This isn't the Unsettled Football Podcast. This is the mock draft that I've been teasing on the Unsettled Football Podcast for about 7 to 9 weeks, honestly, maybe. Okay, probably less. I've always wanted to do college stuff on this channel, but here we're with a mock draft. You know, it's finally here. It's finally here. The mock draft that I've been teasing forever is finally here. I've said that so many times, but yeah. You know, I wanted to do college. I wanted this to be a college, fantasy, and NFL podcast. I knew that it'd be too long and all that. So I cut it down to just NFL, do a little bit of fantasy. I'm going to post a mock draft potentially every 4 weeks. But yeah, make sure you like, subscribe, and comment so I can get a webcam, so I can have a face cam. Right now, I'm trying to rapidly move the mouse around just so it doesn't look like a still image. It is recording, and I do think I might need some new software recording. But let's get right into it, though. This is a post-com. If you didn't know, the way I have to record these is really odd. I have the screen recorded on my MacBook. But yeah, Trevor Lawrence, the potential quarterback for the Jets. Like, I don't think Sam Darnold is the problem. I don't think he's the biggest problem. I think he's definitely part of a bigger compound problem. Like, it's not like Adam Gase is one of the worst coaches in the NFL. Sam Darnold also isn't great right now. But I do think he's better than he's given credit for. Like, it's a pretty shitty situation right now. And Trevor Lawrence, even still, is better. Even still, he's better than Sam Darnold. Now, the Giants are on the clock. Now, with this pick, I struggle to choose what I want to do, because I thought about doing Justin Fields, because that's personally who I would go with if I were the Giants. I don't think Daniel Jones is the guy. I think he showed a bit of good stuff, also showed some bad stuff. Like, if you really, especially if you're Gettleman, you basically stick your neck out for a player who the consensus on that player was much lower than where you took him at. You kind of have to stick with that guy, and you can't really give up with a guy that you really put yourself out there to go get. So to build around him, you can go like the Penei, Sewell, Jamar Chase. Personally, I'd probably go with the Jamar Chase. Like, a receiver that can get open quickly is the best protection for a quarterback. You're throwing to an open receiver, and that receiver's getting open quickly. But on the same token, Penei Sewell's a really good tackle. Now, I know he plays on the left, and you just drafted Andrew Thomas, who also plays left tackle. But I think Penei Sewell is so damn good and so damn young that you could really switch him over. Like, I think the switch and what happens when you switch a tackle's position is a bit overrated, especially when you switch them early in their career versus like switching like a Jason Peters, who has been entrenched at tackle since like the year 2000. So yeah, I think that's a bit overrated. You could go with Gregory Rousseau here, though. Like, I also contemplated between Gregory Rousseau. They don't have a good pass rush really at all, but yeah, they're still good. Like, what the hell did I just say? But they don't have any pass rush. But I ended up going Penei Sewell here. Because personally, I'd move on from him. I'm not choosing every pick as the GM, but I'm also taking into account that you stuck your neck out to get Daniel Jones. You have to kind of stick with him now. Now, Washington didn't stick their neck out for Dwayne Haskins, actually benches them, which kind of takes everything else off the table. Like, you're probably not going to build it on Kyle Allen long term. Alex Smith isn't a long term option, coming off of almost losing his leg. I'm going to go with Justin Fields, quarterback out of Ohio State. I think he's a better quarterback than Dwayne Haskins has been in college. I think he's a better prospect coming out of Ohio State than Dwayne Haskins was coming out of Ohio State, as the offense was just more efficient. Like, he passed the ball less than Dwayne Haskins, had less touchdowns, but he also had like 100 less attempts or something like that. The offense was way more efficient. He had like a 4-yard higher ADOT than Dwayne Haskins in college did, average depth of target. Like, Dwayne Haskins was at like 9 or 12. Like, Dwayne Haskins had much better weapons. He had the same weapons Justin Fields had, plus Terry McLaurin, and Paris Campbell. Like, if Justin Fields had that, he probably would have broke records. Now for this next pick, also contemplated Gregory Rousseau here and Jamar Chase, but I think Jamar Chase is a really good receiver. But it does give you an issue of none of the guys you really have there could play in the slot. You have Albert Wilson, who could play some snaps there. Gesicki plays some snaps there, but they don't play that often. And Jamar Chase is better than Preston Williams, and arguably probably better than Devontae Parker. But Jamar Chase sort of reminds me of a bit of an A.J. Brown, but better. Like, he's really good after the catch. I think he forced something like 20 missed tackles after the catch, which is what was A.J. Brown's biggest calling card. I think he's a better player overall than A.J. Brown is and was coming out of college, or definitely coming out of college he's better than A.J. Brown. I think he's better than what A.J. Brown has been in the NFL. Like, I think that's probably I wouldn't say it's his floor, but he's more of a physical route runner than some of the other guys that I'm going to get to later in the video. Jamar Chase, really good though. Really good deep threat, despite probably going to be running like a 4.4, mid 4.4, 4.5, maybe high 4.9. I think his speed's a bit underrated. I think he might hit like 4.45 potentially if he even runs. He opted out though. Stock is as high as it's going to be. Speaking of opt-outs, Gregory Rousseau from Miami. He's going to stay local, stay in Florida, go to Jacksonville though. He opted out. He's a really good player, super athletic. He's a really good athlete. He's a better athlete than a football player right now probably. Like, he's been really productive, but it's way more chaotic than a lot of other edge rushers. Like, he's really long, big, and athletic, but he's not a refined pass rusher. He doesn't have that many pass rush moves, which could be an issue in the NFL. But he's still been uber productive, and he's raw and athletic, which is what you're looking for. If you're looking for a raw prospect, you want to look at one that was good at the college level, because being good is something that's underrated in the whole scouting process. Now here, I thought about going Alex Leatherwood. I've seen people give them Patrick Surtain. I'm lower on Surtain than a lot of people. I think he's basically a bigger Trayvon, not bigger, but a slightly better Trayvon Diggs clone. And I wasn't high on Trayvon Diggs. As a result, therefore, I'm not high on Patrick Surtain. Now here, though, I mean, I also thought about Leatherwood, but I don't think Leatherwood is a borderline top 5 player. Though, spoiler alert, he's going to go to the Dolphins with this next pick. I gave the Broncos Micah Parsons, though. Really good running back. Really good linebacker. Really good against the run. Great tackler. He has some good pass rush moves for a linebacker. Like, I think if he played edge rusher, he could be one of the best in the class. Like, top 2, top 3. I don't know about top 2. Maybe top 3, though. He's a really good pass rusher as a linebacker. Now, the coverage ability isn't elite. It's better than some other linebackers that I'll get to later in this video, though. And it's actually been better than... You know what? I'll get to that later, though. But yeah, I already spoiled the Dolphins pick. It's Alex Leatherwood. He's a good tackle. He was a better player than Jedrick Wells at the college level. Allowed less pressures while getting some of the tougher matchups. Like, he was getting the Caleb Chaisons of the world when they played up against LSU. Like, he was getting more of those tougher assignments as a tackle, and he was more productive than Jedrick Wells. He's not close to the athlete of Jedrick Wells, but he was a better player in college than Jedrick Wells. Now, that pick of Alex Leatherwood gave an interesting dilemma for the Bengals, who I gave Jalen Waddle. I think Jalen Waddle is the receiver number 2. Like, you could argue that that's almost a consensus now. Jamar Chase 1, Jalen Waddle 2, and the rest are all bunched up together. And this next pick, okay, let me talk a little more about Jalen Waddle. Super explosive player, really good athlete. He's pretty good at the catch point, though he's not. Well, so was Devontae Smith, but that's for a bit later. Trey Lance is going to replace Teddy Bridgewater, who hasn't really. I mean, they're winning games, but he hasn't played that well in those games. Honestly, he's getting away with a ton of things from a turnover standpoint. And that might eventually fall back to earth. Trey Lance, I think, is a better quarterback anyway, though. He can create out of structure. He's coming off of the worst game of his career, probably. Not just because he threw a pick. Like, he just wasn't good throwing the ball. But running the ball, he was great. Like, he could be a pretty good running threat. He might not be the next Cam Newton for the Panthers because he's a bit smaller. But, yeah. Next pick, though, Caleb Farley. I said he's my cornerback number 1, as I'm lower on Surtain and I'm really high on Farley. I don't get why Surtain's getting so much more hype than Farley. Maybe because he's just a press man corner and leans on guys at the line of scrimmage, which isn't that sustainable in the NFL, as shown by Trayvon Diggs getting fucking flambéed in the NFL. So, yes, Farley, really smooth, really athletic. Like I said, that he ran like a 4.39. He doesn't get beat vertically ever, really. He got a bad game against Notre Dame, though. Chase Claypool beat him a couple times. which is interesting. He only allowed a 26 passer rating, like a 36 completion rate, had like 9 pass breakups at Virginia Tech last year. Now, he's not a press man corner. He doesn't have that many snaps playing that assignment. He's playing more off man, more zone coverages, which fits what the Falcons do. But to be fair, that might not be what the Falcons do in the NFL next season because their coach could be out. But even though that's the case, I think Farley has all the traits that could translate to him being a press corner in the NFL. Especially with the fact that I'll get to that later when Surtain gets picked. Because he's going to get picked here. He's just not getting picked as highly as other people are giving him. Now here, I'm looking at receiver. It says receivers are their top need on this website, on the Draft Network, but I don't think it's their top need, even though I'm going to draft one. Spoiler alert. It is something that's going to be a future need. Like, it's probably their best area of strength right now, the receiver position, but Marvin Jones is on an expiring deal. I think he expires in 2021. And I was looking at Rondale Moore. That might not be what you want as a traditional outside receiver. And personally, I think he could play there, but he hasn't actually done it yet at a high rate. And Devontae Smith, I also talked about him as a traditional outside receiver. He's a bit thin. He's still pretty explosive, but he's really thin, and that's not probably what you want on the out. And he's been in college for 4 years, and he hasn't gotten bigger in a college weight room. So I'm going to go with Rashad Bateman, who probably doesn't have the high-end athleticism of a Rondale Moore or even maybe a Devontae Smith, really. But he's a better route runner than both of them, more refined route runner than both of them, and he's won on the outside for his whole career, basically. That's why he's here. I wanted to go Rondale Moore. I think Rondale Moore is probably a better player than him, but Rondale Moore hasn't proved to win on the outside at college yet, even though I think everything he possesses will allow him to do that in the NFL. Next pick, though, Samuel Cosmi to the Chargers. I think Cosmi is a pretty good player. I think this is probably an overvalue, just like I think for Rashad Bateman. They're probably not borderline top 10 players, both of them. But I do think they're a bit underrated relative to their peers. And I do think Cosmi is a pretty good tackle. Here I'm gonna go with a corner, a Zimmer corner, basically, long, pretty athletic. I don't think he's that fast in a straight line, actually. I don't know. Another one of those pterodactyl Alabama corners, Patrick Surtain. I think he's better than Trayvon Diggs, though I don't think Diggs was good. I didn't think Diggs was that good either, so I don't think Surtain is that good either. Like, being a step up from a pretty bad corner, and I've been proven right. Like, I had him at like my cornerback 6 or 7, something like that, maybe 5. I don't remember, like 6, maybe like my cornerback number 6 or something, coming into the draft, and he's performed even worse than that. He's been terrible. Surtain, I think, is better, and Surtain, who was getting all the hype for being long, I guess. Look, Caleb Farley's been a much better player at the college level and possesses the better traits than him. Caleb Farley is 6'2", 197. He might not be he might not have as thick of a build of Patrick Surtain. Surtain's like 202. But the fact that Surtain's getting so much hype, and it's like Surtain, who's a press corner, who might not have the athletic traits to actually be a good man-to-man corner and actually press guys consistently in the NFL. Depends on his scheme, though, but Caleb Farley could do that, too. Caleb Farley is just as big and possesses more athletic traits. Now here, I'm looking at defensive tackle, the interior. They have Marvin Wilson under Christian Barmore, which is interesting because I think that they're on the same level. Like, Christian Barmore was definitely better than Marvin Wilson last year, and what he put on tape is really good, but I want to see him do it again. Like, we have multiple years of Marvin Wilson dominating at the college level, and Barmore only had like a half of the season, which he was really good in, still only half a season less. Here's where Rondale Moore goes, though. To the Cardinals, which might be interesting to some people. Like, the Cardinals receiver core hasn't been that good outside of DeAndre Hopkins. Now, Rondale Moore could be a guy that they use on those screens, some tap passes. Rondale Moore is super explosive, super twitchy. He was beating guys like Sean Wade off the line of scrimmage as a true freshman because he's so twitchy off the line of scrimmage. I think he does have the ability to play on the outside, though we haven't seen it yet. But everything we've seen from him shows that he could do it. But he is kind of on the smaller side, though. But, yeah. The next pick, though, the Eagles. I know their fans want Dylan Moses or linebacker, and they would die for Dylan Moses potentially. I don't think Dylan Moses fixes the issues with your coverage unit. Like I alluded to earlier, I don't think that Micah Parsons' coverage skills are that great, but he's been way better than Dylan Moses has at the college level, especially from like a ball production standpoint. He has like one game with more pass breakups than Dylan Moses has in the whole season. Dylan Moses has played 496 coverage snaps and got his hand on one football. That's not great. Dylan Moses, and like the ball production isn't everything, but I don't think he has the instincts or the lateral athleticism to do it as well. I'm gonna give it to them because I know that's what the Eagles fans want, potentially. From what I've heard, they want linebackers and they need them pretty badly. Their linebackers are pretty shitty, but I don't think that Dylan Moses fixes the actual problem because he's not that good in coverage. And the hill that I'm probably going to die on for this draft class is that Chaz Surratt is a better player than Dylan Moses. Like, Dylan Moses in 496 coverage snaps has got his hand on one football. Chaz Surratt, playing linebacker for literally 1 year and about 2 games, has gotten his hands on more balls than no homo. And I think he's better than he is I think he's better in coverage. I think he just has a better feel for coverage and better movement skills in coverage than Dylan Moses has as a raw player. He's a bad tackler. Project linebacker. I think they're both raw, but yeah. Here, I talk about the quarterbacks for the Bears. This is a pretty obvious quarterback spot as they give up on Trubisky. Nick Foles isn't a long-term option. I talk about Zach Wilson possibly being underrated, though he's getting a pretty big amount of hype now, kind of, from what I'm hearing at least. I'm hearing a lot of people talk about him. Kyle Trask, though, who was already sort of on the bubble kind of guy that's predicted to break out. And it's kind of happened. Him and Kyle Pitts have looked amazing so far. And Kyle Pitts is really the player. But this isn't about Kyle Pitts right now. This is about Kyle Trask. And I think I'm going to ride the hot hand here and give it to Kyle Trask. Give them Kyle Trask. Now, if you skip past this part of the video and say, how the hell is Kyle Trask so high? It's because I'm going to ride the hot hand here. I don't think he's a top 17 player yet, but because quarterback is the most viable position on the field, you can't need to find one. Kyle Trask has played really well through 2 games, only 2 games though. He's potentially the guy. I thought about Jamie Newman, who I wanted to see in a more pro-style offense, quote-unquote. Well, definitely than Wake Forest. Wake Forest ran a college offense, like the long drawn-out RPO. His receivers weren't that good. I know Chaz Surratt was there, but he doesn't create separation at a high level at all, really. So, yeah. But Jamie Newman's ball placement on those deep throws is really good. But here for the Browns, I'm going to go with Boogie Basham, Carlos Basham from Wake Forest. Freak athlete. He's like, 6'5", 275. And he's super explosive, super strong. Now, he's also another raw pass rusher. There's a lot of those in this draft class. Like, most of the pass rushers are raw, except for, like, Roche and Rumpf. Those are, like, the guys that have pretty deep bags of pass rushing moves. But both of those guys have different limitations. Like, Quincy Roche doesn't have that type of top-tier athleticism that you're going to take in the top tier of the draft. But he does have the production and the hand usage. He's someone that's probably going to go a bit later because he doesn't have the traits. But he has the production. And, yeah. Same with Chris Rumpf. Doesn't have the body for an NFL player, but has the production, has the tape. Like, he probably has the most pass rush moves in the draft. Basham, though, on the other hand, doesn't have too many pass rush moves, but I do think he's a good edge rusher. Like, he has these super high-end games, like against Duke, where he's just bullying tackles around, pushing him around. He doesn't have too many, like, if he can build a couple counter moves off of that, then you're looking at a potentially great edge rusher, especially alongside Myles Garrett, who also was a similar player coming out. I don't think he has the flexibility of Myles Garrett, like the edge bend, the flexibility of Myles Garrett, but like the power and straight line and like just straight burst off the line of scrimmage, it might be on par with a Myles Garrett. And a power move, like a straight power move from someone as big and strong and athletic as Carlos Basham works in the NFL. Like a straight bull rush from a guy like that works in the NFL. Like, a lot of the tackles in the NFL have good hands. You're not going to win with your hands as often. You have to have something else. And he has the power. He needs to build a couple counters off that, but yeah. Here I go with Kyle Pitts, tight end from Florida. I think he could go in the top 10, mainly based off of the fact that TJ Hawkinson did, and he's way better than Hawkinson. And he's also a good receiver, like lined up out wide. Like he was beating Israel Mukuamu, who's a pretty highly regarded cornerback from South Carolina. He was beating him off the line of scrimmage, lined up out wide. That's how good Kyle Pitts is. Now here for the Titans. Did I make the pick yet? Like I said, it's a post-com. I did. It's Christian Barmore. I think he's on a similar tier as Marvin Wilson. Like I said, I think they're on the same tier. Christian Barmore was a better player last year. I could have went Devontae Smith now that I think about it, but it's too late now. And Barmore's a really good player. Here for Dallas, though, corner, safety, that's what they kind of need to pick. I mean, Trevon Diggs didn't really work out, but even so, you need to get more guys. And it's not like he didn't work out. It's still very, very young. But they could still add more guys as well, though, to be honest. Their cornerback group isn't that good right now. So, spoiler alert. I think it's spoiler alert. I think I'm going to go with a cornerback here for the Dallas Cowboys. You know, offense, they're pretty fine on offense everywhere. They have almost like no holes on offense. Great receiver core. Great O-line. I thought about Asante Samuel Jr. here, though. Because I think Asante Samuel Jr., if you're looking for an outside corner, I think he's the next best guy that's available here at this spot. Because, I mean, he has the same ball production, great movement skills. I think he is really good. But here I'm going to go with Shaun Wade from Ohio State. Someone that's going to play the slot. Now, people don't value slot as highly as they think, people don't value slot corner as highly as they probably should. No, I think he's going to try to play outside, which he hasn't played in his entire career there. But I think slot corner is a pretty valuable position. Like, they're putting guys are putting some of their best receivers there in the slot. And you have a great slot corner, then that kind of helps combat people putting their best receivers there if you have a really good slot corner, what Shaun Wade can be. He's a good tackler, great in the box. I don't know how good he's going to be on the outside. He struggles with those guys with elite quickness, which some of those guys are in the slot, but he could struggle with. He struggled with a Rondale Moore. And yeah. Here, I'm going to go with Devontae Smith for the Colts. The Colts receiver core, I don't think it's that good. T.Y. Hilton hasn't been good since Andrew Luck. Like, he might not be that good. Not like he's bad, but I think he might be slightly overrated. Like, Andrew Luck is so good. I think he might have elevated him. Like, I don't think T.Y. is bad. I think that Andrew Luck definitely helped him out. Devontae Smith also going to be here too. Like, Paris Campbell, who probably more of a slot guy, more of a gadgety guy, not a really refined route runner. Michael Pittman, who's also a pretty good route runner, good hands. But here, for the 49ers, I'm looking at cornerback. Paulson Adebo was who I thought about going here since he's such a good scheme fit. I think he's a scheme-dependent corner, but I don't think he's a first-round caliber corner. Because he doesn't have the movement skills or, like, the lateral type. He doesn't have the feet. His feet are kind of sloppy. And he's not a good tackler, so he doesn't really fit a scheme that's going to play a ton of zone. If you're going to kind of give a little bit of yards up in front of you, you can't not be a good tackler. I do think he's a scheme-dependent corner and fits here. I'm going to go with Tyson Campbell, who's actually coming from a scheme that actually doesn't fit the 49ers. But he has the size of someone that can play in his own corner, his own scheme. He has the talent. He has the ability. He's not just someone that only wins by pressing wide receivers at the line of scrimmage. Like, he can still play in other ways. I think Eric Stokes is a bit different in that way, and he's better than Stokes. I think he's a bit more scheme versatile than Stokes, and he's actually a great tackler, which you kind of need in his own scheme. Though tackling isn't the most important thing for a corner. When you're going to be playing in a heavy zone scheme, tackling is more important than it is if you're playing in a heavy man scheme. Like I said, well, I haven't said this before, but cornerback stats are hard to predict. He has great pretty good ball production, but they're hard to predict from year to year. But one thing you can say is that, never mind. Fuck it, forget what I was going to say. But Tyson Campbell's a pretty good scheme versatile cornerback, and even though he's coming from a scheme that's playing a ton of press man like Georgia has done historically and still does, he locked up Seth Williams. He's a really good cornerback, and they need a guy on the other side of Richard Sherman. Especially, they might even need an heir apparent to Richard Sherman, with Richard Sherman being like 50 years old now. Now, The Jags. You could go receiver here. I didn't. I went Walker Little. He's my tackle 3. He's been really good since his freshman season. Though he hasn't played that many snaps, he's got injury issues, injury history, but he broke the spark score. He's a freakishly athletic tackle and uber productive tackle, and we're not gonna see him. We're probably not gonna see him. I thought about Jackson Carman here, but I don't think Jackson Carman has the lateral agility to be a modern day tackle, especially if you're gonna take him in the first round. He's been a good player, but I don't think he has the translatable skill set there. His feet aren't great. I mean, he has powerful hands, but you're just gonna get beat off the edge consistently because I don't think he has great feet at all. Here for the Steelers, quarterback says that their biggest need is quarterback. I mean, that's not really a thing that's gonna happen here. Then I started to look at safety. I'm looking at someone that might be able to play alongside him, Minkah Fitzpatrick. I'm gonna call him Micah Fitzpatrick. Minkah Fitzpatrick. Someone that's gonna play more in the box. Trevor Moehrig, who played more in the box at TCU. I don't think he's the better TCU safety. I think that's Darius Washington. I don't have him as my top-ranked safety, but for someone that's going to play the role of a safety in the box, I think he's better than Hamsteiner-Sterling, who is probably the next best guy in the box. I think he's better than Hamsteiner-Sterling as a straight coverage player, and even at the stuff that Hamsteiner-Sterling is good. I think Hamsteiner-Sterling is basically a linebacker. But I think that Trevor Moehrig has some safety ability. Also has some ability to play in the box. Though I think Darius Washington is the better TCU player. He has a good ball. He's a good player. Trevor Moehrig is a good player. It's not like I have him. He's only my safety number 3, 4-ish. Cisco, Ardarius, Javon Holland. And I thought about going Javon Holland here to put him in the slot. Then I thought Patrick Williams was there, but he hasn't been that good in New Orleans. So I didn't go that direction, though. I went with the guy who was Hill. I will die on forever. Chaz Surratt. Spoiler alert. I think he's a raw player, but so is Dylan Moses, and he's been better than Dylan Moses as a coverage player. Against the run, tackling, not really. But what I value a bit more highly for linebackers is their ability to cover. That's what you kind of need to do in today's NFL as a linebacker, or else you're almost basically non-valuable. You're like a 2-down linebacker, and in that case, you're not worth a first-round pick, or a high one at that. Here for the Bills, I'm going to go Javon Holland. Now that I think about it, I probably should have went Javon Holland over Shaun Wade Javon Holland's a slot corner. He's played most of his snaps there. He's universally listed as a safety, though he has almost double the amount of snaps at slot corner, which is what he would be playing in Buffalo if he was actually drafted there in the real draft come draft time. He's a really good player. He has some great ball production playing safety and slot corner. Pretty versatile player. I think he might be the best DB in the class overall, potentially. His ability to play safety and in the slot, both at a high level, is pretty good. So he's going to go to Buffalo, bolster up the coverage unit, which hasn't played well this season, but I think overall has the pieces to be good, especially if you had a Javon Holland. Now for the Bucks, there's many directions you could go here. You could go with an edge rusher, a running back, I mean. If you really want to get spicy, you could go with a quarterback. If you really wanted to, you could go with a receiver. Amon-Ra St. Brown profiles a lot better in the slot than he does on the outside. You could go with that. As people keep getting injured this year. But that's not the case. That's not the point, because they're probably not going to get injured their whole career. You can go with Travis Etienne, who in my opinion is the best running back prospect in Saquon Barkley, which really wasn't that long ago, but I think he's better than Jonathan Taylor, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, DeAndre Swift, those guys. I think he's better than Josh Jacobs, David Montgomery, Rodney Anderson. I think he's better than those guys. And then the next thing is Saquon Barkley. I think his owner, Saquon Barkley, potentially better. I don't know. He's like a faster Alvin Kamara, in my opinion. I'm not going to take him because I don't think a running back is worth the first-round pick because the value of them is not that high. And their replaceability is really high, as we saw with Mike Davis and Christian McCaffrey. And Mike Davis has actually stepped in and been a more productive player than Christian McCaffrey was this season. Christian McCaffrey was running at 3.8 per attempt. Mike Davis is 4.4. Now here, I was torn between Kwity Paye and Jayson Oweh. They're both similarly yoked in terms of being raw athletes. I think Jayson Oweh is more athletic, but Jayson Oweh is also more productive. Lower sample size, to be fair to both of them. I mean, to be fair to Kwity Paye. But in the lower sample size, Jayson Oweh was much better. Not much better, but he was better than Kwity Paye was as a player. Like, he was a more productive player. They're both kind of raw. Oweh is super athletic. He's like 255 and reported to run a 4.33. Like, these basically, he could, if he actually runs that, he might go in like the top 15. If he shows a bit more on tape, though, honestly. So I end up going with Oweh. Here was a simple pick for the Packers, a wide receiver. I go Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's my next best receiver. Him and Chris Olave are in the same tier. You need to help out Aaron Rodgers. He could play in the slot, on the outside. He reminds me a bit of Adam Thielen. Here for the Ravens, though, I thought about going edge. I'm going to go with Andre Cisco to replace the over-the-top safety role that you have Earl Thomas, who kind of has been replaced by Deshaun Elliott. He hasn't been awful. I think Cisco's a better player, but yeah, Cisco freakishly athletic. To support it, he ran a 4.33, runs a 4.33 at safety, which is also great. Super elite ball production. He has like the highest. He has the highest touchdown. Not touchdowns. The highest interceptions plus pass breakups out of any safety in the draft class, I think. I mean, he is a freelancer. He does give a lot of stuff up. Now here, I'm going to give the Jets a wide receiver, and my next best receiver, Chris Olave with the Seahawks pick. Olave, really good route runner as well. Played on the outside. You want to get that new quarterback receiver in, that new coach in next year. They're looking like this is a pretty good draft for them if they were actually did this in real life. Now the Chiefs thought about giving him a receiver just to do it, I guess. I mean, to be fair, you're gonna lose Sammy Watkins eventually. Sammy Watkins is an awful contract, but I thought about Tylan Wallace. No, he's explosive, contested catch guy, great after the catch. I'm gonna go with the cornerback position. Spoiler, I'm gonna go with the guy I've been talking about all mock draft today. I think he's the next best corner in the draft. Elite movement skills, great man-to-man corner. He's really good. I think he's kind of underrated in all this. I don't think he's far away from Surtain / Farley, and his name is Asante Samuel Jr., son of Asante Samuel. But this is the end of the mock draft. Showing the picks again, showing all the picks. If you could put in the comment section how I can record my audio on my external mic and screen record on my MacBook, or if I need to get a software, particularly free, because I don't have that much money. But this is the end of the video. Hope you guys enjoy. I'm broke. Subscribe, like. I'm out. Peace.